Every morning at Balmoral, maids must curtsy to empty rooms. Even if the royal just left, they'd bow to the vacant space. It's a 150-year-old rule that's never been changed. But that's just the beginning. Vacuum cleaners are banned. They scrub carpets on their knees for hours. Some work 18-hour days for less than minimum wage. They can't speak unless spoken to. One leaked review called the management toxic. But there's something darker they discovered. Something that made dozens of them quit overnight. In the summer of 1852, Prince Albert quietly sent $32,000 to buy Balmoral after he saw a rain-soaked ad. He didn't even tell Queen Victoria at first. That amount would be worth about $4.4 million today. Within just a few years, they tore down the old house and built a new granite castle by 1856. Prince Albert even sketched the clock tower himself. More and more land was added until the estate reached over 53,000 acres, larger than San Francisco or Paris. It had mountains, 150 buildings, its own power supply, and a 3-mile railway built in 1866 just Tokari royal luggage in secret. Even though Balmoral feels part of Britain, it's not public. It belongs to the royal family personally. So when deer are sold or cottages are rented, the money stays with them. Some people complained in Parliament, but Edward VII called it their inescapable refuge and never gave an inch. The look of the castle is like something from a Scottish fairy tale. It was finished in 1856 with thick white granite that sparkles against the hills. Prince Albert was deeply involved in every part of the design. He made sure the windows opened just right for fresh air and added carvings of all 9 of their children near the door. There are 167 rooms, but the hallways are narrow on purpose so family members would run into each other more often. Albert thought it would bring everyone closer. The clock tower was based on a German castle and rings in a flat, so it doesn't scare the ponies. Some people at the time said it looked like a giant coal barn, but that didn't stop other homes from copying it. Within 20 years, 80% of new country homes in Scotland were built in the same style. Queen Victoria later said it smelled like pine and freedom. When the royal come to Balmoral, they don't come alone. In hunting season, nearly 150 workers live and work there. There are gillies, horse handlers, cooks, cleaners, and even a man whose only job is to play the bagpipes every morning at 7 a.m. below the king's window. Everyone signs a live-along silence promise. If you break it, you're gone. Maids work 18 hours some days cleaning hundreds of silver pieces and keeping fires burning in over 50 fireplaces. They go through 60 tons of birchwood each season. Meals are simple, royal picnics by the river, where the king still does the dishes. But rules stay strict. Some workers can't speak unless spoken to. Others must live on the land and help kill 1/200 deer every winter. The estate's wages cost over $3 million a year, mostly paid through selling timber and renting cottages to tourists. Every September since 1858, something unusual happens at Balmoral. Workers and royals come together for the Gillies Ball. It starts at 7 p.m., and the king leads the first dance with staff. Even a dishwasher might get to dance with aprons. People say Prince Philip once put gin in the punch to loosen everyone up. Princess Diana said it felt like apron mixed with Downtown Abbey. But the rules never stop. The kind of invitation you get shows your rank. Gold edges for closer staff, plain for others. At midnight, the royals leave and everyone silently bows. In 1991, a young footman sold a secret about a barefoot dance and not fired. Since then, cameras have been banned. Still, many workers look forward to the ball every year. It's one of the only nights they're allowed to call the king by his first name. Because Balmoral is tucked deep in the mountains and only reachable by a long single road, it was always a good place to keep royal secrets. Queen Victoria's strange bond with her servant John Brown grew here away from watchful eyes. Edward VI practiced his abdication speech here. When Diana died in 1997, William and Harry were kept away from the news for hours to protect their peace. But not everything stays hidden forever. In 2019, a cleaner leaked photos of the royal children's treehouse, causing the palace to ban photography and cover the windows. Years earlier, a former worker revealed private details like how the Queen Mother drank Duvet and how Prince Andrew always needed 28 golf balls. He was paid $90,000 but got sued. Now, even drones can get close. Sky fences were put up in 2024. Balmoral is quiet, but secrets still find a way out. Long days begin early for the youngest staff. At 6 o'clock in the morning, maids head to the oldest kitchen and begin polishing over 200 pieces of silver. Breakfast is served by 8. Then come long walks with heavy tea kettles along cold stone halls to avoid waking the royal dogs. Lunch means peeling 18 kilos of potatoes. Then they switch into clean uniforms and prepare for tea at 4. After that, it's time to clean up muddy boots from the day shunt. Most nights, they reach their attic beds around 9:45. These are 15-hour shifts. No overtime, just a quiet line in the old manual that says, "Loyalty is its own reward." One former maid said it was like giving your life to a shadow. And no one ever said thank you. Vacuum cleaners were banned. Queen Elizabeth hated the sound of them. So every morning, 2 maids would get down on their knees and push little horsehair brushes across the carpets. Just brushing one hallway took 45 minutes. The dust got so thick they had to rinse their aprons twice a day. In 1990, the head housekeeper said the change added 9 hours of work daily. But pay stayed the same. Staff said their wrists hurt so badly they couldn't eat properly. Still, no one complained out loud. The castle looked perfect on the outside, but inside quiet pain spread beneath every clean rug. Talking was dangerous. In July 1986, one maid was dusting when she heard Prince Charles whisper to Diana. Another servant hissed at her, "Toke deaf." The next morning, she got a written warning. There was a strict rule. Don't ever register what the royals say. If you do it twice, you're fired and you lose your $250 in off-season bonus. Many workers learned to communicate with hand signs, especially during breakfast service. Some said the halls of Balmoral were quieter than a library, not because of respect, but because of fear. Everyone was watching. Every silence meant survival. The pay was not fit for the job. In 1983, the lowest level housemaid earned $18,000 before tax. That was barely $4,000 more than the average British worker. Even though she worked 60 hours a week and lived at the castle full-time, some areas still had old toilets, so maids carried out chamber pots. It took 3 years to move up to first housemaid, but that only raised the pay to $21 to $500. Meanwhile, male gamekeepers earned about $26,000. Many women left after just 1 year. Royal historian Patrick Thorncraft later said it created quiet tension that was never spoken, but always felt, like standing in the cold, wearing silk gloves. One rule truly shocked new maids. If a royal left a room and a maid entered moments later, she still had to curtsy to the empty space. It was meant to honor the spirit of the royal who had just been there. In 1987, during the Gillies Ball, the staff ended up doing this curtsy 61 times in one evening. Some bruised their knees so badly that bandages were handed out with their serving trays. One maid said it felt like curtsying to ghosts. It was a sign that their dignity mattered less than tradition, and no one ever questioned it. In March 1988, a French magazine printed a story that shook the royal family. It came from a young maid who had worked just 8 weeks at Balmoral the previous summer. She was paid around $10,000, more than she would have earned in 8 years. In return, she shared everything she saw behind those royal walls. She talked about dinner routines, private moments, even which dog slept near Princess Anne's room. The UK tabloid picked it up within 2 days. Suddenly, millions were reading what was never meant to be shared. One of the most touching stories she told happened in August 1987. During a formal dinner, a guest accidentally drank from the finger bowl, mistaking rose-scented water for soup. It could have been embarrassing, but instead the Queen and the rest of the royal family quietly copied him. They all sipped the rose water just to make sure he didn't feel alone or ashamed. Staff counted 17 empty bowls after that dinner. That tiny moment said more than 1,000 speeches. It showed a family that in private would rather drink perfume than humiliate someone. But not all the stories were sweet. She said that during Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher's 1987 summer visit, things were tense. The Queen, according to the Maid, didn't have her stay inside the castle like the other guests. Instead, she was sent to a small cottage far away in the estate. Staff even called it Siberia. The palace denied it immediately, saying that Thatcher always stayed at the castle, but people noticed she missed the next morning's grouse hunt. Whether it was just protocol or something more, the tabloids ran wild with it. Two powerful women locked in cold silence made for irresistible headlines. When it came to Charles and Diana, the picture was softer. The Maid said they seemed like two teenagers in love. She often saw them holding hands when they thought no one was looking. Charles would fetch Diana's coat himself before a picnic. Diana quietly gave tips to the young stable boys, but the sweetness didn't erase the hard truth. Housemates were earning just $75 a week. Overtime, often when unpaid. Breaks were called by a bell, just like in the 1800s. It was kindness in the hallways, but old rules still ran the house. The royal household was furious when the story came out. Within hours of it reaching the public, the palace issued a harsh statement, calling it a gross breach of trust. They launched an internal review, checking all 348 staff members who had worked the previous season. Security rules were changed overnight. New workers had to go through long background checks and sign strict secrecy papers tied to the Official Secrets Act. Everyone understood what that meant. Talk to the press, and your career was over. But the Queen herself was a mystery of contrasts. The Maid remembered Christmas of 1990, when she watched Her Majesty carefully save an iron-used wrapping paper and stored them in a tin once used for dog treats. It was wartime thrift in a palace full of jewels. She once saved a lemon slice from her plate, saying it will be perfect for trout the next day. Staff found it both charming and strange. While some admired it, others wished that same frugality extended to her wages. Prince Philip, meanwhile, used dinners as a sort of game. Every evening at 8:15 sharp, he would fire questions at the maids. How many grouse were caught that day? Who had run off with the local postmistress? The Maid remembered answering 11 questions in a row in August 1985. It felt like harmless teasing, but to Diana, still early in her marriage, it felt like being watched too closely. She later said those evenings felt more like tests than family dinners. By summer 1991, even the children were part of the palace rhythm. 8-year-old William and 6-year-old Harry began hiding vacuums and making a game of disrupting the staff. Once they hid a cleaner behind an old tapestry, causing a 42-minute search. That same week, they squirted mustard on the ceiling, copying a joke Prince Philip had once played. But underneath giggles, there was tension. Only 2 days before, Charles and Diana had a long private conversation about separating. The Maid heard it through the walls. The boys were playing, but the castle was holding its breath. When the Maid first arrived in May 1987, she was asked to swear an oath, not written, but spoken, promising to protect the family's secrets. They stood in a quiet hall filled with stag heads, looking each other in the eye. But that promise said it'd stand forever. Selling her story meant changing her life, and it forced the palace to change too. By 1989, they started making every new worker sign Ailgel's secrecy clause.